I don't want to hear a Roll Tide yet. just save it.
Do I have to wait?
Yeah. Go ahead. Just go ahead.
Roll Tide!
Okay, we're good now. We're good now.
You know how I do it, right? Say it with me. 1, 2, 3. Roll Tide!
Give it to Derrick Henry. And he's got running room. He's going to get his touchdown. Touchdown, Derrick Henry.
Cover's going deep. The ball's going down the field. Caught it over the shoulder.
Touchdown, Alabama.
What up, Bama fans? You already know what time it is. It's time for the best show on the interwebs, and that is the Alabama Scheme Team. Of course, I'm your host, Murph Baldwin, 125th of the Alabama Scheme Team, because we're an army as one, and we have a ton of foot soldiers on the ground. So I'm excited about this particular show here. I'll be teaming up with my man Kevin Hagan of the Alabama Scheme Team. He is a member of patreon.com/Alabama Scheme Team, a member of our site. So we definitely try to get with the members of the site there and create some quality content. But this guy can create quality content on his own because he's very plugged in. You can hear him on the Bill King Show on a weekly basis. You can hear him on my man Drew D's show. I believe it may be midday talking ball now. I'm not sure where he's talking ball. He may be talking in the morning. I'm never sure where Drew's talking ball at, but we know he's always talking ball. So my man Kevin Hagan's a very talented individual out there, and we're definitely very happy to have him on the Alabama Scheme Team. So how you doing, Kevin?
Good, Murph. How are you doing, sir?
Man, I'm doing fantastic, man. Couldn't wait to get you on the show, man. I think we can make some quality content here, bounce off each other. I appreciate you being a member of the site, first and foremost, and so we can go from there.
Oh, it's a great site. It's an absolute must for any Alabama fan, and it's a great honor to be talking Alabama football with you this afternoon.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. The feeling is absolutely mutual. So, Kevin, man, we were talking beforehand, bouncing around a couple of show notes and stuff like that. I wanted to definitely make this a linebacker-themed show as I released the top 5 linebackers, a video out there that you guys can find on the Top Billing Sports YouTube channel if you haven't seen that already. Make sure you get there. I think it's pretty good, man. It's about 9 minutes long. Took me forever to make it and everything like that. But you know me, I try to do it from an analytical standpoint, schematic standpoint, and really breaking down and then giving you reasons as to why I believe so-and-so is where. So we'll go over our respective lists. I tried to get lists from everybody out there. Maybe I'll read some of the people's lists here that I have in front of me that they have too, some of the other scheme team members out there. So a lot of the people we had, you know, a lot of the same players were just kind of in different orders, so we'll get to that there. And we have some other linebacker-related topics. But first, man, I wanted to get to a couple of cleanup-type items. Kevin, can you go in and tell me about some of the summer enrollees or some of the guys who may have not enrolled yet or aren't on campus yet and where they stand? Could you start off with one, Josh Jobe?
Josh Jobe, he has passed the online course. So he is expected to join the Alabama team probably later in June, but he is now academically cleared thanks to that online course and has cleared the academic hurdle. And he is expected to be a huge part of the secondary for the 2017 Alabama team. It's great to get Josh Jobe. We were holding our breath there for a little while, but he has passed that course and he will be academically qualified.
All right, cool. So let's have you put on your X's and O's, Murph Baldwin type hat. Where would you see Josh Jobe fitting at in the secondary?
I think Josh Jobe is going to play some nickel this year. I think he and Patrick Surtain are both going to be integral parts of this year's team. I think Patrick Surtain, it's only a matter of time until that young man takes over as the quote-unquote starting nickel back. I wouldn't be surprised to see that happen maybe as soon as by the Texas A&M game. Certainly by the time they play Tennessee, I expect Patrick Surtain to be a starter in the nickel position. I expect Josh Jobe to play in some dime situations and some nickel with him. Patrick's just a little bit ahead of Josh Jobe at this point. Of course, Patrick has the blessing of having a great former NFL player in his father. He's been able to tutor him and get him prepared mentally and physically to join the Alabama staff. But Josh Jobe's going to get a lot of playing time this year and be an integral part, along, I think, with Jalen Armour-Davis and Eddie Smith. I think all of those will factor in depth situations for Coach Carl Scott's young secondary this year. They're going to be counted on and needed this year to help.
I completely agree. But I've had my druthers about the situation, and I'm going from Josh Jobe's a pretty physically mature individual himself. He's like 29 years old. He played out there in South Florida before. Obviously, he had to transfer because of the age limit in Florida and go to Cheshire, Connecticut out there where quite a few players have come out. I would actually like to see him be more of a star. I always thought that the star worked better when it was more of a cross between like a safety, cornerback type, some guy who can roam flat duty, some guy who could play really good moving forward. You know what I'm saying? Flat duty, seam flat type stuff like that. But able to blitz and stuff. And I look at Josh as kind of one of those combo type players. You know, kind of a safety corner type combo player. But obviously, Surtain is probably the more talented player. We'll have to see when they get on campus. Definitely the most heralded player. I would like to see Surtain right there at a real corner spot, you know. I'm so scared thinking about Trayvon Diggs, even though I want to see him do a little bit better this year, but I'm so scared thinking about him manning a corner spot. We know that one of the spots will be locked down by our newcomer guy, but man, Trayvon Diggs, if the great capstone guys out there can grant our wish, please don't have Trayvon Diggs man in a corner spot if he's going to play like he has in the past. You know what I'm saying?
I agree with you. Savion Smith, the transfer, the former LSU player and the transfer, as you said,
yes,
he's going to lock down that boundary corner. Savion Smith.
I said yes, sir.
He's going to lock down that. He's going to lock down that boundary corner. Yeah, he's a stud. I did have an opportunity to see a couple of the scrimmages this spring in person. Trayvon Diggs did look improved, but I'm like you. It's something the young man's going to have to continue to do, and it's going to be hard for him to eventually, I think, hold off Patrick Surtain for that position. I agree with you about Josh Jobe. I love his thumper ability. I love the fact that he can come up and provide some run support. I like guys that'll pop like that, and that's why I said earlier, I think both he and Patrick Surtain, by the end of this season, will be integral parts of this secondary for Coach Scott. Now, they're just not going to be able to keep him off the field, I don't think. I will tell you this, though. I really like what we've seen out of Daniel Wright. I think Daniel Wright's taken another step forward, and Xavier McKinney. I've heard whispers that they think Xavier McKinney could be the next great superstar safety. So we're going to need all of them. But, yeah, Josh Jobe's going to be an integral part of this 2017 secondary, no doubt. I'm so glad that he made it academically. That was huge.
For sure, man. If people out there knowing that we've been high on Xavier McKinney since he came over here from pretty much down the street there at Roswell, Georgia, me being a Georgia-based journalist here. And so people want to out there, go check out that film study I had on Xavier McKinney before the year started last year when I was thinking that he could make an impact right away. But obviously there were some studs in front of him, so he could definitely make that impact. And I've been high on Daniel Wright myself. He had, to me, a kind of a so-so A-day. However, I know the type of talent that he has, and he would definitely be the type of star. If you could get Daniel Wright along with Xavier McKinney and Deontay Thompson all in the same secondary, even if it's more of a big nickel type scenario, man, I'd definitely be with it. But Daniel Wright is a thumper. He, my friend, is extremely physical. And I think Josh Jobe is that type of physical player too. Just goes to show you, man, how much talent is up there at Alabama, man, because some of these guys aren't going to get the type of player time that they would want, and they probably that their talent would warrant. But hey, man, it is what it is at Alabama. And then we're forgetting, I think Shaheem Carter actually had a very good A-day, and from what I gather from a few sources, had a pretty good spring himself. So Shaheem Carter is a guy there with some experience, played last year as well. I want to see him. And Jared Maiden is a guy that everybody's been talking about for a minute. We want to see what he can do. And he had I believe he had a pick in the AJ game. So what about some of those other guys that we didn't name there? Is any one of these guys you can see making an impact this year?
Well, I certainly could see Shaheem Carter making an impact. I really like him as an instinctual player, plays very fundamentally sound. Jared Maidenhays, you mentioned, unfortunately, he's just been nagged his entire time in Alabama with the little nagging injuries that have prevented him from playing at full strength. But he had a strong spring. As did Shy Carter, and I've heard that the redshirt sophomore Kareem McDonald, he flashed at times this spring. So it's going to be an extremely young secondary, but it's a talented secondary. And I wouldn't sleep on the 3-star Eddie Smith, who's coming in from Louisiana, long arms, athletic. He may play mostly on special teams this year, but I would not sleep on Eddie Smith. I'm really excited about that young man, and I think he could be a quote diamond in the rough for Alabama. But it's a young, but it's going to be an extremely talented secondary this year.
Well, people out there, if you have a young, extremely talented secondary, that means the guys in the front seven have to be getting after it. And I do believe that this particular iteration of a front seven can be right along with some of the ones we've seen in the past. I think that's something that we need to do a little bit later too, maybe go over and see which years had the best front seven, because, man, some of these combinations have been absolutely ruthless if you're talking about the opposition. So I think this one's going to be pretty good. When we're talking about the second-level players, the off-the-ball linebackers, and I think that they may be able to get organic pressure with some of the guys that are coming in, but mostly because of a guy like Terrell Lewis or maybe Christian Miller. I'm not too high on Christian Miller. He's one of these guys that I don't know about him, man. I want to see it. But, man, to me, he may be more of a weak link. He may open up for some of these other guys out here to get a little bit more playing time, or it depends on exactly how you're going to deploy your front as well. If we're going to more of a nickel front, more of a four-down lineman front, he's the guy that wouldn't get as much playing time as you would think anyway. So that's when we see maybe more guys like LeBron Ray step in, some of these other edge players that I think has a ton of talent. And you definitely always want to have Raekwon Davis and Isaiah Buggs and these guys on the field. So it's an embarrassment of riches, but they're going to be able to get it done with the front seven. So what do you think about the prospects of those guys before we move on to a couple other show notes?
Oh, I'm extremely excited about it. After the conclusion of every spring practice, the coaches get together and they vote and rank the players from 1 to 85 on the entire roster. And this year, Terrell Lewis was unanimously voted by every member of the Alabama coaching staff as the number one player on this team, regardless of position, regardless of class.
How do you feel
number
about that?
Number one player. Well, I'm not surprised. I mean, it was a real travesty last year that the Alabama fans that we didn't get to see Terrell Lewis on the field. He missed 10 games, along with Christian Miller to the injuries. I'm a huge defensive guy. I'm not anti-offense, but defense is what really cranks my engine.
Yes, sir.
And I absolutely am a huge fan of Derrick Thomas. Think he's the greatest defensive player to ever play at Alabama. But I will say this, if he stays healthy, I think there is a possibility that Terrell Lewis this year could have a season that might be very close and reminiscing of the dominating 1988 season when Derrick Thomas literally wreaked havoc on college football and won the Butkus Award and was a first-team All-American. I think Terrell Lewis is an absolute freak athlete. If you look at the pictures of him, how he's bulked up, and he has a drive and a focus and a seriousness about the game, and I think we could potentially see a historic season from Terrell Lewis this year. I really do.
Man, you're getting me excited, man. The loons. You have my loons burnt. Man, I'm excited about that. You start mentioning Derrick Thomas.
I would not want to be a quarterback coming to the line of scrimmage and looking over there and seeing Terrell Lewis on one end and Anthony Jennings on the other. That would not do well for my blood pressure.
We didn't even
of those two. And I'll give you a young man that I think is going to be very, very hard to keep off the field as the season moves forward, and I think that's the true freshman, Abiyanoma.
Yeah, Yabianoma. Oh, yes, sir.
He's going to be a superstar.
I think he will too, man. And that's really glossing over, to me, the strength of the team. I would definitely see from a height, weight, athletic standpoint, Terrell Lewis, definitely I could see him voted number one. But to me, unequivocally, the best player on this team has to be Raekwon Davis. The guy's an absolute freak. He's a double-digit sack guy from a 0 technique to a 5 technique, and I think that's very rare. You do not see too many people who can man that many different techniques along the line of scrimmage and can get you double-digit sacks, and he could do it at every single position there. And then to me, it would be hard pressed to say that Isaiah Buggs isn't almost his equal. And I think a guy like Quinnen Williams coming up, I think Quinnen Williams has as much talent as both of those guys. He just needs the experience and the playing time. Then we're talking about a LeBron Ray, and like you said before, with T. Lou and all these guys. Oh, come on, man! It's going to be crazy out there, man. There are some teams that are equally as talented. I think this is going to be one of the best seasons in college football. But there's no more team that's more talented than Alabama. If anything, it'll be a push. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, absolutely. I think it's going to be a scary good Alabama defense. And at the same time, and you've done a wonderful job talking about it on a number of previous podcasts, I think this could be a historically good Alabama offense, which is just going to make this defense that much better. I mean, if the offense performs at the level that I think it's going to, it's going to be unfair that we're going to put a defense on the field that the offense is putting that many points on the board for them. I agree with you about Isaiah Buggs and Quinnen Williams. You know, Quinnen Williams kind of gets lost in the shuffle sometimes, but Alabama fans need to realize his senior year of high school, Gary, who went to Michigan, was the only other defensive lineman that our coaches had rated higher than Quinnen Williams. They're really high on him, and I think the decision of Isaiah Buggs to return to Alabama for his senior year is going to reap major dividends and millions of dollars for that young man. I agree with you. The light really came on for him at the end of the season, and I expect Isaiah Buggs to have a huge season. And I've been told, the coaches feel very comfortable that Buggs, Quinnen Williams, and Raekwon Davis, all three can play anywhere from the 0 to the 5 technique. But I just love Raekwon Davis. I affectionately call him Quanzilla. And if he stays healthy, I think he's going to have an absolute monster year. And he'll easily, I think, be one of the top 3 to 5 picks in the NFL draft in the spring. He's a monster year for Raekwon Davis. And a super young man, and no one deserves it more. I really am rooting for that young man to have a great season. And another guy that redshirted last year that I'm really high on, saw some things in spring I really like for him. I'm a big fan of the redshirt freshman Fedarian Mathis.
Yes.
I'm excited to see what he's going to do in year 2. I love Fedarian.
Yes, me too. All right, tell me this, Kevin. There's a couple of guys out here that we'd be remiss if we didn't name them, but man, I think they're straight milk carton type cats. What have you heard from Jerez Parks? I've been asking around. I can't get anything.
Jerez, came in joined the team in December and went through spring practices. And one scrimmage I really focused on him. Very athletic, moves really well. You could tell he was kind of going a step slow from the standpoint of, and this is not at all unusual, the first time you go through a spring or fall practice as a true freshman, there's so much mentally that you have to grasp to play the defense in Alabama. So there were times when it looked like Jerez was doing more thinking and just reacting, but that's not a negative. You see that a whole lot. Very athletic, got his hands up really well in some pass situations, and I think it's just a situation of another year of learning the defense, getting in the strength and conditioning and nutrition program. And I look for Jerez Parks to play on some special team situations. A little bit of a contribution this year. I think in 2019 we'll see big contributions out of Jerez Parks.
I'm not so sure about that, man. I think he may be going the way of Ben Davis, to be honest with you. I mean, there should be no reason for you to at least flash at A-Day, something. And I don't think was he even out there?
He was. A-Day wasn't his best week. I hate to put a lot into A-Day because A-Day.
Yeah, you can't. I mean, you have to do the scrimmage.
It's dysfunctional.
Yeah, it's one practice, but still.
Where the rubber really hits the road, and he was working with the threes most of spring. Let's be honest, though, he's going to have to produce because they keep bringing in so many great players. You know how it is in Alabama. You basically get 2 years to make an impact. He's already at the gate because someone else is going to take your place. Yeah.
Hey, Kevin, if you think about it, he's already been recruited over. Because there's no way he's going to.
You can say that very easily, yes.
There's no way he's going to outplay any of these guys that are ahead of him. All these guys that we just named right there, especially some of these guys, like the fact that Christian Miller and these guys are on the team. But then next year, you would have to think, how far along would Iyabi Anoma and these guys be? And then some of the guys that they have coming in, and some of the guys that are on the trail that I think are some can't-miss type guys that I know will come in and produce right away. He could very well have already been recruited over. So he may be on some Ben Davis. Well, elaborate on Ben Davis, man.
Oh, Ben Davis. Wow. How can I say this? Ben's just struggled with the mental aspects of the defense at Alabama, and as I said earlier, our players talk when they go to the NFL. The Alabama defense is far more complex than a lot of the NFL defenses, and he's just kind of struggled with that. And I've heard I've heard some whispers that him being quote as a soft player. He hasn't really beefed up much in the strength and conditioning program, and Some people have alluded to the fact that maybe he's a little bit of a step slower than they thought going in. You hate to wish ill will of anybody, but I'll be real honest with you. I would. He only played last year when we absolutely were totally out of bodies because we were decimated for injury. I will be very surprised to see Ben Davis moving forward contribute in any way for Alabama other than possibly on special teams. Unfortunately, I just think that was a situation that's not going to work out like we hoped for.
I always thought he would be at Alabama, but it'd be the University of Alabama, Birmingham, because I think that may be his ceiling right there. You talk about a misevaluation. This was across the board. Obviously, I work for multiple sites on the Rivals Network and is able to see kind of how the sausage is made. And I disagree a lot with a lot of these guys. One of the things is I value competition. I'm not sure where Gordo High School, what type of competition they had, but I will say this: he would show out and show up in some of these all-star type games. And obviously, if you look at somebody, he's probably a legit 6'3.5", close to 6'4", and he looked like he could cover. He would play offense a lot. He could catch the ball. But, man, you have to be able to me, settle in on a position. I think it almost got Rashaan Evans, but he's just too damn talented of a player for that to be to his detriment. But moving Ben back and forth, is he a line-of-scrimmage player to play off the ball, this and that, having him not being able to concentrate on one particular avenue. And I was told this by a player on the team who will remain nameless, but I'm pretty sure everybody knows because he's a friend of the show. He told me unequivocally before he stepped on campus that, that he thought that Ben Davis didn't have what it takes, and he thought that he made me move to offense, play tight end or something like that. But he didn't factor in his decision when he was making his decision to go to the capstone. He said, that's not a guy that I'm worried about at all. And he had heard that from the coaching staff. So you're right there, man. But we might see that man at Alabama, Birmingham, or he just may ride it out and just chill out at the capstone. But you know what I'm saying?
He might. I'm to be honest with you, Murph, I'm really surprised that the young man did not transfer. I was looking for him to transfer possibly in that May, quote, summer break period. So I'm a little bit surprised that he is coming back. And I mean, let's be honest, a lot of people, he's not his dad. His dad, Wayne Davis, all-time leading tackler in the history of Alabama football. You can't compare Ben to his father. It's just not the same player.
Man, in high school you could, though.
I am shocked. I am shocked that Ben didn't transfer in early May. I was kind of looking for that. He was one of the players I had pegged that could possibly move on to another location.
Yeah, he was on my list too. He was definitely on my list too, and I've got him right the last couple. I knew B.J. Emmons was going to be gone. I thought Ben Davis could be one, and I thought one of these secondary players, one of the older guys, I felt like if they got passed by in the spring, that they might try to jet out of there, and maybe one of the running backs, like a Josh Jacobs or somebody like that, who I think could help out the team. But sometimes I think these kids, if they're doing what they have to do in their school year, they can graduate in 3 years and have 2 years to play somewhere else. So maybe that's the move instead of just. But to me, he needs reps. He needs to just go to JUCO.
Absolutely.
He needs to go to JUCO and get some reps, man. He looks lost out there. If you saw him at A-Day and I just focused on him when he was doing that, I don't like to ever call somebody who plays football soft, because if you play football, ain't nothing soft about football. You could be, quote unquote, the softest person and still be one of the hardest cats out there. But it might be the S word, maybe apt to Ben Davis. But all right, man. So let's move on past there. Got a little insider information there. I think that we both got there. You want to try to get on that? It's about another player, another off the ball linebacker. Some stuff we may be hearing.
Oh yes, I'm hearing that. Unfortunately, it sounds like due to an off-the-field situation, that VanDarius Cowan may very well miss at least 6 and possibly 12 games this year. I understand that there will be an appeal, but unfortunately, due to some decisions that the young man made, it sounds like that we may not get to see him participate this year, which is a real tragedy because I focused on him this spring, and VanDarius Cowan is an incredibly athletic, gifted football player, and I really hope that the young man can get it together off the field. It would be a tragedy to see it derail what I think could be an absolute superstar career, not only in Alabama, but I think in the pros. So we all just need to hope that VanDarius can get everything together so that he can be a part of this team because wow, he's got jaw-dropping ability. He made some plays this spring that was just like, wow, did he just do what I saw?
VanDarius, I love you, man. Me and you grew to talk all the time. You would hit me up, FaceTime me, all kinds of stuff. But man, some of the stuff I can just see, being a young man myself like you, VanDarius, back in the day, that some of this stuff was definitely ahead for you, man. And I was hoping that you would get around the right people at Alabama and kind of right the ship for you there. So I'm not at all surprised. Can't say that I'm at all surprised, you know. So, and man, it is what it is. I hope he gets it together. Like you said before, extremely talented cat, 6'4", probably pushing 225, 230 pounds now. I know that's what he wanted to get to. I remember him when he was committed to Florida State, and I was thinking about him playing in a 4-3 defense. Everybody was talking about him playing on the edge, and he was like, I play off the ball. You know, he would say, I play a linebacker, a second-level type player and stuff like that. And I was like, man, that's exactly where you should play. You could do it all, though. If you go to the capstone. He did it. He didn't care who was there. He said he was going to come in and make an impact. He thought he was better than everybody except Mack Wilson. But it's more to being a Mack Wilson than just what you do on the field. That's all I can say about that. So I wish that young man the best, but I always thought that he may not finish his career at Alabama. That's just me.
I agree 100%, and I really do hope the young man can turn it around. Markel Benton was another one who was kind of moving in the wrong direction, but got everything turned around and had a wonderful spring. Wonderful spring from Markel Benton.
I love me some Markel Benton, man. That's the guy I was trying to tell one of my guys, scheme team guys, Justin Motor there. I was like, man, you got to watch out. I know you love VanDarius. We all like VanDarius because I think he fits. It's dependent. Just like when we do this top 5 list, I think there's certain style of guys that people like, not necessarily how they play, but just how they are. And I think VanDarius Cowan is very much along the lines of like a Reuben Foster type, to where he can get everybody hyped up, and people love his attitude in his ability to crack and do all this different stuff. But I like a Markel Benton. To me, he's got everything that you would want. I did not know the behind the scenes stuff for him. I never really got a chance to know him through our rivals camps. I believe he did come to our Atlanta camp one year, but I never got a chance to know him, so I don't really know him like that. But I just know him as a player, and I think he's every bit as talented as a VanDarius Cowan. So hopefully he's gotten it underway as well. So anything else, man? We good before we get to this top 5 inside linebacker of the Saban era?
Well, speaking of inside linebackers, when people ask me about this 2017 defense, I just tell people that, I understand that the secondary is young and all, but I keep telling everybody, I think if Dylan Moses and Mack Wilson stay healthy, I think this is a potential national championship team. I think if those two young men will be on the field for every game, I think this will be a scary good Alabama defense. And I think Mack Wilson, the ceiling's the limit for that young man.
All right, so we talked about this before in the top 5 inside linebackers, so make sure you check that out. Top Billing Sports, YouTube, subscribe to the channel. Make sure you check out those videos I'm popping out. Some of the ones I make Patreon exclusive, but then I try to give a little honey out there to the people too and let them check it out. But I'm all about my Patreons. So out of those 2 players, or if there's anybody else there, do you see one of those guys eventually ending up on this top 5 list of the inside linebackers of Saban era?
I could see either one of them. Potentially either one of them. I'm not anti-Mack Wilson. I think Mack Wilson's a superstar player. I would go with Dylan Moses potentially as being somebody that could be on that top 5 list, but I would not argue with anybody that made the argument for Mack Wilson, because I think he's an outstanding player.
Come on, man, make the case.
I'm very intrigued.
Make the case, Kevin.
Guys go.
Make the case for your boy
Dylan Moses on his athleticism.
Okay.
He thrown into the fire last year. I thought he handled it as well as it could be expected, or whatever. I'm just gonna go with Dylan Moses just on the heart, because I've followed the young man for so long. But man, I love me some Mack Wilson too. They're too special. This is going to be a real treat this year to get to watch these 2 guys play inside linebacker together for Alabama. It's going to be a real treat.
Man, 2 guys that I saw very early. My man Dylan Moses came to play against Grayson last year in the first game of the year. IMG versus Grayson was on ESPN. I talked to him after the game. At the time, I was covering LSU as well, so it was looking like he was a strong LSU lean. You know what I'm saying? It was kind of in between there, but we were talking about the different positions that he thought he could man and where he thought he fit at best as maybe in a 4-3 type defense. Could he play more of a strong side type linebacker? Can he cover? How is he in shallow zone type situations? Can he get off blocks and everything? And he was telling me, man, he thought he could do it all. And seeing him play last year, I tend to agree. I think the kid is money, so no doubt about that. But to me, Mack Wilson, he may be on another level. I think I've never seen a guy. He came in our rivals camp. I'll say it to this day. I've never seen anybody who can cover Isaac Nada of the Dogs, one of the freakiest tight ends there is. Top 10 player in the country at the time. 5-star cat like that, but he's just one of those get busy type players. He can get in and out of his transition, something serious, man. He knows how to bake you. He can set you up. If he knows he's running a slant, he's going to take an inopportune way to get to that slant because he's going to detach your ankles from your body. But he could not do nothing with Mack Wilson. Mack Wilson could cover this guy like it was nothing. Mack Wilson can cover anything. I've never seen a linebacker like that who can cover. And I think that's in the NFL is what's missing. I remember watching our man Dante Hightower have to try to cover some of the league's tight ends, some of the best tight ends, and he couldn't do it. He looked the part, looked like he would be big enough and stuff like that. But I remember seeing Tony Gonzalez getting his ass something serious. I think Mack Wilson could cover Tony Gonzalez, Rob Gronkowski, everything. I think that's special to have somebody who can represent like that, and he's a big hitter. I think he has a lot of range. He's not the biggest linebacker I've ever seen, but I don't think he's totally engulfed by blocks. He's not a stack and shed type linebacker. However, he's not engulfed by blocks, so I think he can just represent a myriad of different ways, man. So Mack Wilson is special to me. I think Mack Wilson definitely can find his way on here with just one more year. One good year like I think he may have, he can find his way. But I don't know who I would bump off, though. So, all right, so let's just go ahead and give it and get into it. Let's let you go first. Who is your number 5?
My number 5 in the Saban era is Reggie Ragland.
What? Hold on. I forgot we had this.
You cannot be serious!
Cocaine is a hell of a drug.
All right, so why is my man Ragland number 5?
Well, he, during his freshman and sophomore years, he primarily played. His freshman year, primarily played on special teams. Mm-hmm. His sophomore year, 2013, he was played some backup inside linebacker and special teams. He really didn't blossom and get a lot of playing time until 2014, his junior year, when he started at the wheel. 13 to 14 games. But I mean, he made the most of it. He was a semifinalist for the Butkus Award, first team All SEC. It was SEC Defensive Player of the Week with the LSU game his senior year. And of course, he had the great senior year. First team All-American, was 2015 SEC Defensive Player of the Year, second round pick to the Buffalo Bills. It's not really anything against Reggie Ragland doesn't do. It's just that the other guys that I have before him are just, this is really, really talented. And, being number 5 on this list to me is not an insult in any situation by any means whatsoever. He did win 2 rings at Alabama in 2012 and 2015. He's an outstanding. The Bob Jones product from Madison, Alabama was an outstanding player. But somebody had to be 5th, and I chose him.
That's exactly right. So I'm just giving you a hard time because I'm a huge Reggie Ragland guy.
That's all right.
Yeah. So my thing about this is when I'm going into this list, I'm like, it's so close between these guys. Like you said, number 5 and number 1, we're splitting hairs. We really are. But like you said, somebody has to be number 5. And to me, I'm going to go by skill set. I'm one of those guys. I have to go by what I see on the film. And I just don't think a lot of these guys can do what Reggie Ragland did. First and foremost, I'm not sure any of these guys can get off blocks. This is just not their thing. Hightower can do it a little bit. McClain a little bit as well, but not C.J. Mosley, not Reuben Foster, not Sean Deion Hamilton. Dylan Moses, maybe a little bit. Who am I missing? Mack Wilson a little bit. Reggie Ragland has no trouble getting off blocks. That's what he does. Rashawn Evans, he couldn't get off blocks. He can get off blocks with the best of them. So being able to have a guy, a stack and disperse kind of guy like that to me, that changes the defense because you can play him at the wheel or whatever like that. I guess that you would call it, but I just have to go by being able to teach the people out there. You have your weak side of your defense and your strong side of your defense. You got a guy playing to the strength of the defense where the tight end is. That's a little bit tougher there. More blocks are coming. I believe Reggie Racklin could play a strong side inside linebacker as well as he could play a weak side inside linebacker, and that's very rare. And we already know that they like to play him at a 6 technique, let him rush the passer. He made a really good game of it at the Texas A&M game. I forget what happened, what made that the situation where he had to do that, but he would do that a lot from time to time. And he could rush the passer that way. He could pick off passes. I wasn't totally afraid of him in shallow zone coverage. I just think Reggie Racklin is the absolute ultimate. So my number 5 was Reuben Foster, just for the simple fact that splitting hairs, like I said, he's a great player, but I don't like launchers. I like people who are sure tacklers. I think that he went for the highlight a little bit too much, and he would miss a lot of tackles. I don't know if people really notice that. He would miss a lot of tackles just trying to launch himself at people and blow them up. He would knock himself out. I know he saw a whole bunch of Tweety birds in his day. He was woozy a lot. I don't think he was really a diagnosed type cat as much as he was a run and chase type cat. So you have him playing on the weak side of the defense. You let him use his speed, his quickness, and everything like that. Just more of a flashier type player to me. So great player though, really great player. But I would put him at number 5. So your number 4?
My number 4 was Dante Hightower.
Ooh, let's go. Well, we both agreed on that.
Dante at number 4.
Yeah, we both agreed on that. Hightower, I like, signal caller type cat. I didn't really have a position to me. I think that they like to play him going forward a lot. I always thought he was best going forward, not more of a sideline guy, and you can see him doing a lot of the same things for the New England Patriots as well. So it's just something in his skill set. But he's a really good player. I like Dante. I like him to get out the bus first too, and he can scare everybody. So you're number 3?
My number 3 was Rolando McClain.
All right. Why would Rolando be your number 3? That's probably, I know me not having him number 1, everybody was getting mad at. So you go ahead and I'll let you talk about Rolando.
Well, I mean, separating all 5 was hard. The top 3 just really gets almost impossible. I mean, he was 2009 first-team All-American, 2009 Butkus Award winner, 2009 SEC Defensive Player of the Year, integral part of that 2009 Alabama national championship. You know, part of Saban's first class in 2007 at Alabama. Started 9 games his freshman year. Taking over for Prince Hall, was Sporting News first-team All-American as a freshman. Started all 14 games as a sophomore. Was a third-team All-American that year. Was a Butkus finalist his sophomore year. Led Alabama in 95 tackles his sophomore year, and then he had the strong senior year. Of course, I'm going on what he did at Alabama, not what's happened with his pro career afterwards.
No, this is strictly Alabama.
Although it is amazing. It is amazing that Coach Saban was able to keep him out of trouble while he was at Alabama. But I went with Rolando McClain as a close number 3, 274 career tackles for Alabama, a thumper player. And yeah, I just really appreciate all he did to contribute to that much-needed 2009 national championship with Coach Saban's first.
All right.
And remember, he had the big fumble recovery for a touchdown in the Kentucky game in 2008 when Alabama barely won. Glenn Coffey had the other touchdown. Had he not made that play, we would have probably lost that game.
All right, cool. So I guess we're pretty much in agreement there. Your number 2?
My number 2 is Reuben Foster. And I'll explain why. Granted, 2016 Butkus winner, 2016 first-team All-American, MVP of the 2016 championship game. I agree with you 100%. I remember people inside the program telling me during his freshman year and even up into his sophomore year that if the young man did not learn to tackle, that he was going to end his football career with a serious neck injury. And I had people tell me he will never finish his career at Alabama because of that reason. He just simply will not learn to tackle the right way. So it's amazing that he did make it. What I really love about Reuben, this may not be a good reason to have him number 2. I will never, ever forget the great moment. I honestly did not think he would switch back and commit to Alabama, and I knew it. Sunny Day when he committed, that was just a huge blow for me. I love that. I love that about Reuben.
You know what? I knew that. I was thinking in my mind. I was like, there's got to be a reason why. It had to be the commitment thing. That's what I was thinking in my mind. There's the same thing why a lot of Georgia fans like Roquan Smith. Now, Roquan Smith was a hell of a player, probably the greatest linebacker in the history of the program. But it's the fact that he was at UCLA and he had the thing and the moment and stuff like that was all dramatic. And Ruben back and forth with Auburn and Alabama and Auburn tattoo and all this, something like that. I think I just tugs at the heartstrings of the people out there. Not to say he's a bad player, but I think that definitely factors in for a lot of people there. So I can see that. I like Reuben Foster a lot. So it's all good.
And do you remember when he started his first career start back in 2014, the opener against West Virginia at Atlanta? And you remember it was just a disastrous start for the young man, but he rebounded from it and went on to have the great career. I'm really happy that he got over the concussion issue and was able to play. Yeah,
that was a tough offense to go against. For the simple standpoint,
it was.
My man Hogerson, man, he's got a lot of different stuff, man. Their different run schemes and their ability to go vertical with Kevin White at the time. Kevin White was. Man, I forget which cornerback he was killing. Was it Brad Sylvie?
Yeah.
I think it was Bradley Sylvie, yeah. Kevin White
that was a sneaky, scary opener that I think we try to look back on and act like it. But if you remember, that was a very stressful win for Alabama. That was a very strong West Virginia team.
It was a great win, no doubt about it. I believe my my number 2, C.J. Mosley, who could very well, to me, be the most talented player out of the entire bunch. There's nothing about Mosley you can say really bad, except for really getting off blocks and stuff like that. I think it may have taken him a little while to really establish himself as the type of player that he was. Maybe cause just like you said about Reggie Ragland, very similar in that aspect. But man, sideline to sideline ability, being able to arrive with an impact, ability to float shallow zones. He could pick off passes. He's still picking off passes in the NFL. He's a special player, man. He very well could be number 1. So when it gets to that, it's just who tugs at your heartstrings the most. And I just Ragland tugged at mine a little bit more than C.J. Mosley, but I got him pretty much 1A, 1B. So your number 1 was?
I went with C.J. Mosley.
There you go.
Yeah, I went with C.J. number 1. Yes.
Yes, sir. Not much more to say on that, then. All right, then.
Well, I mean,
folks,
the play. I mean, there's so much to say about CJ, 2-time All-American, the 2013 Buckus Award winner. But I think for every Alabama fan, we go back to that 2012. Let's not call it the SEC championship game against Georgia. Let's call it what it was. It was the national championship game. Notre Dame was just a historical exhibition game. And when CJ got his hand on Aaron Murray's last pass there, I will forever love that young man for that. I will buy C.J. Mosley dinner the rest of his life for making that play.
I love it, man. I love it. Yeah, that was a hell of a play, man. Hell of a play. Hell of a squad. All right, so we said who could make it from this current team. Who in the past will be an off-the-ball inside linebacker that you think could make your top 5 for any reasons that you would give?
Well, first off, and it's a shame he didn't get to play for Coach Saban. I have to go with D'Amico Ryans.
Oh, you took mine. You stole my thunder.
2005. The 2005 lot winner. I absolutely, and a super young man off the field, academic All-American, I believe. I was just, and still to this day, I'm a huge D'Amico Ryans fan. And I hate that Alabama. I don't want him to slip into the background. We need to celebrate D'Amico Ryans. Great player.
D'Amico Ryans is probably my favorite, even more than Reggie Ragland and C.J. Mosley. D'Amico Ryans was that dude. And he played at a time where I was playing, and I would study all kinds of film on D'Amico Ryans and exactly to see how he would get off blocks. That's all good. Play 4-3, play 3-4. It didn't matter. We saw that when he was at the pros with the Texans and the Eagles. He could do it all. And he was the very first one of those signal caller Ray Lewis type cats that I just knew that he would get the defense into the right places, being able to direct everybody up in front of him, put everybody in their gaps. He was very gap sound. He was a very short tackler. He wasn't launching at anybody, but you was gonna feel him. I tell you that. He would arrive with a bang, and it was a bang, but it was technique sound type tackling. So everything about that, D'Amico Ryans if he played, he would very well be probably my number 1 in the top 5 if he was a Saban era type cat. So, but that's your guy too.
That's my guy. I mean, obviously, I think Derrick Thomas is the most talented defensive player to ever play at Alabama. 1988 Butkus winner, 2014 College Football Hall of Fame. Finally, why did it take so long to put Derrick Thomas in the Hall of Fame? And I love the history of Alabama football. So I've got to also throw in there from the early to mid '70s Woodrow Lowe, first three-time All-American Alabama history out of Phoenix City, Alabama. Woodrow Lowe was a 2009 College Football Hall of Fame inductee. And then if you want to go old school, which I love, you got to go with Leroy Jordan out of Excel, Alabama. 1983 College Football Hall of Fame inductee. 1962 All-American. And, hey, in 1962, Leroy Jordan, playing linebacker, finished fourth in the Heisman Trophy voting.
As a linebacker, now come on, man. Let's go.
Remember, in the night course, that was before they officially kept defensive statistics. But in the 1962 Orange Bowl, when they beat Oklahoma 17 to nothing, in front of President Kennedy, remember Leroy Jordan had 31 tackles in the game, which is the most. This is a record for Alabama. Of course, the second most is by the young man we were just talking about, D'Amico Ryans, and his 25 tackles against Arkansas.
I remember that Arkansas game too. Nico Rhymes was straight.
All those guys. We've had so many, and you get thrown out some. We've just been blessed at Alabama with so many great linebackers. So it's old school, new school, like you said. You're splitting flying hairs, and you really can't argue with anybody because they're all well deserving.
Man, well, you know what else is well deserving? Me for having you on this show. So congratulations to you people out there, because that was some good stuff by my man Kevin Hagan. So Kevin, I appreciate you coming on the show, man. Please tell me you'll come back and hang out with your boy, man, and we can talk some more shop.
Murph, it was an honor to talk to you. I'd be willing to come back anytime. You'd love to have me, and I just want to say Roll Tide to all the listeners out there. It's a great time to be a fan of the Crimson Tide. This will be my 41st season coming up, and it's a great time to be an Alabama fan.
Roll down Tide.
Yes, sir. So, all right, y'all out there, make sure you get on over to patreon.com/Alabama Scheme Team so you can check out some of his work. Man, maybe we'll get some stuff from my man Kevin. He's a wealth. As you see right there, his bank is extremely full with Alabama knowledge predating even my existence. So, he's definitely somebody great to have in the fold. So, we want to say shout outs to him again. We got to give him a round of applause here if I can find it. And thank you to everybody out there. Shout outs to the Molder Boys. Shout outs to my man Bills, D-Life, CL Smooth, David Butler, Coach DC Woods, Davon Muhammad, and everybody out there of the Alabama Scheme Team. Until next time, we will holler at you, boys. Let me get a Roll Tide from you, Mr. Hagan.
Roll Tide.